Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Today I have a new guest, Deepika Narayan Bhardwaj. Deepika is a journalist and she's also a documentary filmmaker who has brought out the issues of men's rights, and in general her documentaries have been around issues that men face in the society in India. And today we're going to talk about a very significant theme or a topic that is now finding its way through the courts of India: marital rape. What is it? How it is being used? What is it being described in this? To know the whole thing, let's welcome our guest of the evening, Deepika. Deepika ji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Thank you so much, sir. It's my pleasure to be here.
So I saw a series of tweets that you had put out, I think it was yesterday, and I really got intrigued, and I was talking to a couple of my people, and they said that, well, I think this is a topic that is now gathering a lot of interest, and it would be nice if we could get Deepika on our hangout. And lo and behold, I'm talking to here, and you have a panel, or you have a podium to express what you have been saying in your tweets. Tweets are only 280 characters. Here, you have access to express yourself as to what exactly do you think is going on. Is this something where people are just looking at the West and then copying it and trying to bring it in India? Or is there a real reason for marital rape? So I'll yield the floor to you. Take it away from here.
All right. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me on PGurus. I really admire this platform and absolutely honored to be here to share my views on this very, very important specific issue called marital rape. So Sree, to begin with, let me tell you, in the marital relationship space, in the West or in several other countries, they usually have Domestic Violence Act or a domestic violence law, which basically covers any kind of violence or any kind of atrocity on one partner by the other. Most of the countries have these specific laws neutral, wherein the violence or the abuse could be by the either partner, either from the male or the female. In India, most of the laws that govern marital relationship, especially the violence or the abuse part of it, are there only for women. First, let me tell you, there is a section called Section 498 of Indian Penal Code, which criminalizes physical as well as emotional cruelty perpetrated on a married woman by husband or his relatives. So not only husband, but his mother, father, his sister's husband. There have been cases where entire ambit of family has been implicated in these cases by the married woman, claiming that all of these people gang together demanding dowry, physical cruelty, etc., etc. So one is 498. Then we have PWDVA, which is called the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act. This law covers physical abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse, even verbal abuse, and grants various kinds of reliefs to a married woman, beginning from her residence rights to maintenance to child custody visitation. A lot of things come in under the purview of this. Then there is Section 377 of Indian Penal Code, which criminalizes unnatural sex, sexual abuse, which can be used by a married woman also against her husband in case there is a sexual violence within marriage. Now, what is happening, Sree, is under the Indian Penal Code, which criminalizes rape, sexual assault on a woman, which is under two sections, where one has the definition, another has the punishment, which is 376 and 375 of the Indian Penal Code. Out of various behavioral deviances that it recognizes as sexual assault or rape, there is one exception, that a husband cannot be charged of raping his own wife. So there's an exception in the Indian rape law that a husband cannot be prosecuted for raping his own wife. So 376 cannot be applied in case of marital relationships, and that's where this entire discussion is happening. there is a public interest litigation in the Delhi High Court filed by the RIT Foundation, and they are saying that this exception violates Article 1421 constitutional rights of a married woman. Their say is that any woman, whether married or unmarried, has the right to say no, and a husband should not be given any leeway, or he should not be given any immunity from being charged of rape if he has violated the will and consent of a woman. And that's what this whole discussion is about. They're wanting to get this exception removed. They don't want to go to the parliament. They do not want to have a full discussion, but they want the courts to, just strike down this exception. And that's the entire discussion about. And to your answer of are we aping West? Well, while one of the grounds for bringing this or striking down this exception is the violation of constitutional rights, another argument is that India is a signatory to CEDAW, discrimination of any sort of violence against women, and these are these 50 countries, developed countries, who have recognized marital rape as a crime. So why not India? But when they say this, they do not say that most of these countries do not have a law like 498A.
So how would you implement this? I mean, what kind of a metric would be used to say that there was marital rape?
Very interesting question. Nothing except the statement of a woman. And when I say this, I'm very serious about saying this, because for the last 3 years, I have been working on a documentary called India's Sons, which is on lives of men who were falsely charged of rape. These are ordinary men who were falsely implicated in rape charges. Sometimes a man who may not even have met that woman, and still he was falsely accused of rape, spent years and years fighting for their innocence. Some cases where these people had solid technology proofs, like CCTV footage, like their call detail records and everything. Let's not even go into call detail records, but CCTV footage of being present in an absolutely different territory when they are supposedly raping this particular woman. So I've spent 3 years, I come with a lot of background and a lot of research. It's only the statement of a woman on which an FIR is filed. Post the Criminal Law Amendment 2013, and before that as well, it is mandatory for a police officer to register an FIR of sexual abuse, rape, and under 376, 375 IPC. And they cannot refuse it. If they refuse it, they are liable to be punished by law. There are provisions that have been added to the Indian Penal Code accordingly. So post the 𝗫𝗫𝗀 case, during the Criminal Law Amendment Act, medical test of the woman has also been made voluntary. And that is not going to come in the way of proving or disproving her charges. It may have some way when during the trial, if she said no to medical trial, maybe it could be held against it, but that's no ground for non-registration of FIR. So whether she goes for medical test or does not go for medical test, just the statement of a woman that on a particular day, and that day could be 6 months before, a year before, 2 years before, 3 years before, if she says that my husband had sexual intercourse with me against my will and consent, that's it. The guy is going to come under 376.
Now, Deepika, from your sample set that you've got over the last 3 years, does this thing span all religions, or is it localized to one or two?
To be very honest, sir, I have not really studied or researched the abuse of law from the point of view of religion. I have seen men of every religion being falsely implicated. But yes, to say or so, I have seen, and before India's Sons, I made Martyrs of Marriage, which was on false dowry cases. So I come with a background of misuse of dowry laws as well. I've seen predominantly it's the Hindu families in which it is happening, because somewhere in Muslims and Christian families, they still have got some reverence for their local community decisions. The matters do go over there and they try to mediate and they try to settle. But Hindu families sort of, I feel, have become very, very disjointed. The community is still there. Community decisions are still there in, I would say, tier 3, tier 4 towns or villages, but tier 1, 2, 3 cities, they do not really have any say whatsoever. So there's an FIR and then the cases continue. But Indian Penal Code applies on every religion, so there is no bifurcation over there.
Of course, of course. That's why I asked you that question. I was just trying to get a sampling, whether it is culture driven or something to do with a different reason. I mean, if there is genuine rape, for sure, the woman should find justice. It's your contention then that the current legal system provides for that?
Yes, absolutely. The current contention, mine and everyone who is opposing marital rape law are multiple. First, primarily is definitely this, while people who have petitioned this are saying, why can a husband not be called rapist if they're hell-bent on calling a man in a marital relationship a rapist? Well, then that's their prerogative. But if a woman has gone through physical sexual violence in a marriage, then she already has laws that come to her recourse. I want to also add over here that 376 of Indian Penal Code also provides for a provision to prosecute husband as well. So just to explain this with an example, if a man and a woman are in a marital relationship, the woman does not want to have sex, the man wants to have sex, they're not just getting along on sexual terms, let's say that. She can easily get separated from him, and during that separation, if he anyhow tries to have sexual relationship with her, she can prosecute him for 376. So that exception is also there. Apart from that, like I said in the beginning, 498A, 377, and PWDVA, there are three different provisions. The minimum punishment for 498A is 3 years. The punishment for 377 is 10 years. So the provisions are already there. Their contention is only this, that why can't a husband be called a rapist if he has done the same act as unmarried man would be called a rapist for. I'm not getting too much into the technicalities. Obviously, there are a lot of arguments around that. But yeah, to complete point, I'm sorry I missed out. So first is this: there are provisions already which are existing. Second, they are asking for a blanket removal of the exception, which is going to expose husbands to myriad of situations in which a man is said to have sexually abused, assaulted, or raped a woman. To just give you an example, if her consent is obtained on misconception of fact, if she is promised, just to give you an example, and I think your viewers really, really need to know this, India is perhaps the only country in the world where if a man goes back on his promise of marriage, then a woman can accuse him of rape. This is forming approximately 45 to 50% of the rape cases in India today. What I'm talking about is a man and a woman are in relationship, and there are cases where rape has been filed after live-in relationships as well. N number of those. They have been in relationship for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year, doesn't matter. The woman then goes to the cops and say that this man has been having sex with me by promising that he is going to marry me, but he's not marrying me. And then the guy is charged of raping that woman, and then the trial goes on. In 2015, these cases were 21% of the reported cases, and I'm giving you National Crime Records Bureau. In 2000, by the end of 2019, these cases have exceeded 45% of the gamut of rape cases. So our contention is that when there is such a background, not just of false dowry cases, but even of rape cases, can you bring a law without any safeguards whatsoever? And the countries that they're saying have recognized this offense. Just to talk about United States, different states have different definition, different states have different punishment, different states have different thresholds. For example, there is a statute on when it can be reported, like 35 days in some states it's different. So, but what feminists are asking here in India is removal of this exception, which again, then I said, is going to expose a husband also to myriad conditions where he can be charged of rape. Another is intoxication. If a woman says that her consent was obtained when she was intoxicated, that is also rape. So if a husband and wife have gone and had drinks and come back and had a sexual relationship, if something goes wrong between them, then the woman would say that on that night we were intoxicated, he did not take my consent and he raped me, and she can charge him of rape. So a man will be at the mercy of his wife not to be charged under this offense, sir. And when I'm telling you this, there are thousands and thousands of cases in India. India has decriminalized adultery. There are statistics that have come out on how many married women are on these extramarital websites. There are hundreds of cases that have come to me where if the man found out that his wife was sleeping with somebody else and he objected to it, the next thing that he got was a false dowry case, false domestic violence case. And now I was in fact reading tweet of a very learned advocate, Mr. 𝗍𝗂𝗀 Bhandari. He said it very rightly. All the divorce cases in India will now turn to be a marital rape case, because most of the divorce cases in India, especially the contested ones, turn out to be a case of dowry domestic violence, even though there was not an iota of any demand of money or domestic violence. It's very easy to abuse laws in India.
Thank you so much for casting light on something that has not perhaps been debated much in the mainstream media. And let's see how this case plays out. And it seems like some people have time on their hands and they just want to try and bring something that's already in force in some countries in the West. And I mean, if already the law is covering this, I wonder why this is being asked to be presented in front of a judge. And it seems to me like it's a waste of time, but that's just me. Don't take my word for it. This has been something that we agreed to in a very short time, and I really appreciate it, because you have some other thing to do in a short break before.
Thank you so much. There's just one thing that I think your audience should definitely know, Sree sir, which is no matter how serious the allegations are in these matrimonial disputes, no matter to what kind of a brutal assault has been claimed, there are plethora of cases, and in fact, most of the cases eventually come down to settlements. There are settlements that are ranging from 5 lakhs to 50 lakhs to 5 crores. Just today, my last series of tweets, you would see that I've sought FIRs from husbands who have already been accused of sexual abuse under the IPC 377, which I said is applicable and wives can use it. There was a judgment by the Supreme Court in 2014, which gave some recourse to the husband that they would not be immediately arrested in these false dowry cases, which was popularly called 𝗍𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀 judgment. Immediately after that, what the lawyers and this, I would call them disgruntled wives, started doing was started adding allegations of 377, because by adding that, they would get the husband immediately arrested. So now, earlier the settlements used to be in lakhs. Now the settlements would go on in crores, and it would be very ironical that women are going to now settle their rape cases. And on one hand, Supreme Court of India is saying that matrimonial disputes really need to be, settled with both parties coming to an amicable resolution. But then we have the court deciding now marital rape. So I'm not too sure if the cases that you were talking about that happens in West, where there are these cases of spousal violence, if they end up only about monetary settlements. But in India, most of the cases do. And to bring a heinous offense like rape to that ground, I think would, in my personal view, be making a mockery of the crime in totality.
Thank you so much, Deepika ji. That was very illuminating to know that it's not a safe place for men, unfortunately, and especially those with means. And but overall, I'm a little disappointed that the institution of marriage is now being defined in cut and spliced and diced. There is something called as understanding, and in fact, many of us have experienced arranged marriages where our parents go through a very careful selection. I'm not saying it's yes or no, it's not right or wrong. Anybody can choose their partner any way we want. Because that is the case where you can say, well, I didn't know what I was getting into or who I was, going to marry. At least in the other case where you know your spouse before you get married, at least you have some idea of the person. So this is a very interesting case, and hopefully it gets settled quickly. And especially since there's already adequate protection, I see no reason why this should proceed forward. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you so much.